mention before we begin today is I want to compliment all of us. I believe that we're really growing in the awareness. It's so easy to get stuck in life, just to get stuck in all of the stuff that just goes on. And I want to give kudos to all of us who are really striving to grow in awareness. As I was mentioning, the way that I look at it is that the end game, or what are we doing? The end game, I think, is to realize that we're much more than just limited human beings. We really are eternal souls, and we are here to bring creativity. We're here to bring heaven to the earth plane. Now, I don't know if that works for you or not, but I just want to tell you that works better than anything else. So I just hope you feel that more and more, that you would see yourself as an eternal soul, and that you're here to bring awareness to the planet. That's what we're doing. And as we do this again and again and again, that's what really brings the light to bear. So just want you to know that we're committed to the end game. We play all the other games, but we're committed to the end game of bringing that awareness here into manifestation. So with that in mind, we have a couple of interesting things today. Today is kind of a double handout day, so just want to pass these out first to everyone. Donna. I'm holding this up because this quotation, really 2 paragraphs, is from Volume 4 of the Masters of the Far East, Life and Teachings of Masters of the Far East. And I felt it would be very important for us just to maybe go over this particular reading today. As you know, what we're trying to do is offer a little more substance to our Sunday presentations, and I just think today is going to be substantial. So hopefully it'll be really good. So this is about mastery, and again, this is kind of the page before the ending of Volume 4. One does not gain mastery or illumination by going to India and sitting at the feet of a master. One gains mastery by listening to the deepest facts of your own nature and by obeying what he learns there. There is no help that is needed that is not available instantly if one but turns in this direction and proceeds from this fact. All the power of the universe is back of every high motive, every true impulse that stirs in your inner nature. It is like the germ of life within the seed, and all the forces of nature move to bring it forth into its full expression of all of its potentialities. This is the manner of the masters, and their instruction is always that you must be true to the self, live the life of the self, express what is inherently true until you are outwardly what you inwardly long to be. Just such a beautiful passage. In the second paragraph, when man returns to this motive of life, all that there is in the universe begins to move in upon him, to manifest itself through her. Not only must man have the intelligence to direct him and the power to do that which is to be done, but also the substance. And that substance is the God Spirit within us. You not only have intelligence and power, but you have the substance that nourishes and supports us in the doing. There is no lack except in the realm of hypnotic or unconscious ideas that have clouded his mind from reality. Back in his native oneness, where he consciously receives what the universe is pouring out upon him, there can be no lack in any phase of his being, nor in his affairs. Well, this is what we subscribe to. And we're beginning, I think, to live this just more and more and more and more. And I just encourage you to kind of take this home with you, mull it over. I just think it's a wonderful presentation of what we're about and how we're manifesting. So just kind of keep that in mind. We're moving towards mastery. There'll be another handout in just a bit, but we're not quite there yet. So with that in mind, let me now move into the teaching that I would most like to share with you. As I've mentioned, it's been a joy to see the rise in consciousness in all of us. We are growing in the awareness. And I give all of us the credit for the wonderful efforts that each one of us is making. And particularly, it's really nice to see that whenever we make the efforts, the results are always there. The results of joyful living authenticate the process. The results authenticate the process of raising our consciousness. Why would you not do something that's working for you? And if it is working for you, well, why wouldn't you do it? So as we continue to raise this consciousness, this is such a beautiful thing that's occurring. So now that we see these results, what I would just want to suggest to you is that it's the results. It's the results that authenticate the awareness presence within our lives. So to elevate our lives even more, what I'd like to do is to share with you today's teaching, which is entitled Releasing the Past. So let's begin. The Buddha, of course, like Jesus and Lao Tzu, has been one of those great teachers in history, and many times we just treat each other. But the Buddha has really taught, in a sense, so many wonderful things, and the four things that he primarily taught were simply called the Four Noble Truths. And everybody enjoys those Four Noble Truths of Buddhism. I know that you know them, but we'll just review them just to make sure. So the first one was an interesting one. He just said that, well, human life is filled with suffering. Human life is often filled with suffering, especially focusing on what he would call illness, aging, and death. How do you contend with illness, aging, and death? Or he would say some of these interesting questions. He says, how do you contend with being tied to something that you wish you were separated from? Jobs, relationships, social situation. Or how do you contend with being separated from something you'd like to be tied to? Big things in life. Again, jobs, physicality, relationships. And then he would ask those penetrating questions. He would say, are you really happy deep down inside? Or is it only a surface happiness that changes with changing moods? Good penetrating questions. And then he would sometimes say, well, how long does that happiness really last? Does it really, in a sense, continue? Or does it come and go very quickly and the struggle returns? So when you read that first noble truth of Buddhism, you think, holy smokes, I'm doomed. Seems like nothing is going to ever occur in life. And then the second noble truth is kind of a good one anyways. He says, well, here's the reason why people suffer. People suffer because they desire the things that are not permanent. They desire things that are not permanent to the neglect of that which is permanent. So what happens is that whenever we desire those things that are not permanent, we often think that, well, as soon as I get this is going to be it. And then, of course, the next thing has to come, and the next thing, and you always think that the next thing is it until you finally realize that there is no next thing that's ever going to satisfy you. It goes on and on and on until you find that something that is permanent. And then that third noble truth is always an interesting one too. He said that, well, you can overcome suffering. You can overcome suffering by extinguishing those unruly desires, or by extinguishing those roots that we just have to eventually get rid of. And the word he used to extinguish those desires was called nirvana. So we all like that word, nirvana. Well, then the Buddha, being the Buddha, had to then give us the fourth noble truth. And the Buddha, being the Buddha, simply gave us what he called an eightfold path. So that the fourth noble truth is an eightfold path. It's simply 8 steps that if you follow those 8 steps, you'll be able to overcome suffering in your life and return to well-being. Well, isn't that what all of us would like? To get rid of the suffering permanently and to return to well-being on an ongoing basis. So we're not going to go through all of the 8 steps, but there were 3 steps in Buddhism that I think are very important for each one of us. And these are the things I think we have to do if we're going to grow in the awareness. These are the things we need to do to release the past, to get rid of the old habits that no longer fit. So I'm going to suggest these 3 particular steps and just see how they fit with you. I just want to tell you, they're very helpful for me. Perhaps they'll be helpful for you as well. So the first step the Buddha says is, you must have the right knowledge of who you are. You must have the right knowledge of who you are. And this is probably where most of us kind of fail. We don't seem to have the right knowledge of who we really are. Many people fail at the first step because they still conceive themselves as limited human beings in a physical body that pretty well, in a sense, runs their life. And what the Buddha said, as long as we continue to think that way, we will not have the right knowledge. So I think we can happily say, we do have the right knowledge. Let me just briefly review it for you. The right knowledge I would simply suggest to you is this, that we are eternal souls and we have not left our source. So sitting here right now, we are eternal souls that are tied to the universal energy. Despite the fact that we're in physical body, our soul is established in that divine energy. So as A Course in Miracles would very simply say, well, we are those eternal beings, we are those ideas in the mind of God, and sitting here right now, we have not left our source. We're no longer deluded. Doesn't mean we don't have challenges in the world, but we're no longer deluded in thinking that we are that stuff, but rather we have that presence within us, and we realize our goal as an eternal soul connected to the divine is to simply take our places as rightful co-creators of the universe. That's the right knowledge. It's a stretch at times, but that's what we have to move to realize who we are as eternal souls, and being here, we are taking our rightful place as co-creators of the universe. Now that we have the right knowledge, I want to skip to the 7th step that the Buddha talked about, and I'd like to really make it the major substance of this month's teaching. The 7th step is simply this. It is to be mindful. To be mindful. But not in a vague popular notion of simply mindfulness that we have in many books today. But rather, this is what the Buddha meant by being mindful. Penetrates into everything. He just said, you have to meticulously search your mind to root out any residue of old habits or negative thinking which can keep us suffering. You got to take some time to really go into the mind and to root out, meticulously root out any of the old habits and any negative thinking which keeps us in suffering. Jim Self had another way of looking at it. Rather succinctly, simply said, you can't take your baggage with you. Absolutely true. So, what I'd like to focus on today then is, how do you root out the old habits of thinking and acting that no longer fit into your lives? So let me just suggest this to you. I would like to suggest that the best way to root out an old habit that keeps holding us back in our lives is to use the acronym of FEAR. We all know the acronym, I think, pretty well. False evidence appearing real. What's the false evidence that is appearing real? Now, let's be clear. Only you know what is fearful to you. And by fearful doesn't mean, oh my gosh, I'm scared. But by fearful, I mean edgy, shaky, upsetting, gets on your nerves, or burr up your butt, whatever it might mean. Only you know that something inside of you that is at odds with what you want to be. No one can tell you that, but you do know if there's anything at odds within yourself of what you'd really like to be. And only you know when something just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right, indicating the work that needs to be done within us. So what I have done is I've made up a list of 10 things that you might find upsetting or fearful to you. I don't know, see if these fit. These came to me. Number 1, road rage. Number 2, one of my favorites, patience on telephone holds. Just telling you. Number 3, an intimidating person or situation. Number 4, old phobias, from worms to spiders. Number 5, personal entrapments based on food, sex, money, drink, or relationships. Number 6, personal pride. Should I go on? Did I mention enough? Pretty interesting. Number 7, dislike of a personality type that irritates the heck out of you. Number 8, procrastination. Number 9, disregarding your intuitions. And number 10, allowing yourself to be moody, whiny, and complaining. Again, only you can see the work that needs to be done. But you begin to see that realistically, what happens is that these are things that hold us back. Not usually major things, but kind of a combination of a lot of little things. So what I'd like to do is to give you a direction, just a direction, on how to clear your minds and emotions from these ways that no longer serve you, of moving beyond old concerns that no longer should concern you. The distinction I would like to suggest, it becomes very important for us, is kind of like really a direction, and it came pretty much from Neil Donald Walsh. He had this wonderful little phrase we'd like to use as a basis. The phrase was, what you resist persists. What you resist persists. What this phrase, what you resist persists, pretty much means is the following, and it gives a real direction to ourselves. What he suggests is that the more you focus on the fault, just follow me, the more you focus on a fault from the energy of your mind, the fault has a tendency to persist. Let me say it again. The more you focus on a fault from the energy of your mind, that energy or that fault will continue to persist. If you only focus on a fault from the energy in your mind, it's the energy in your mind that created the fault. It's the energy in your mind that created the fault in the first place. And it's that energy that we have to be able to move beyond. It persists because you are resisting it from the wrong place. And we need to move to it from a better place. And of course you say, well, is there a better place to move through what's bugging you? Well, of course there is. And what I would suggest to you is the best way to resolve what is blocking maybe your direction in life is to move then to the 8th step of the Eightfold Path. The Buddha said in the 8th step of the Eightfold Path, the most important and the best way to get through mind problems is through meditation. What the Buddha would say is that the best way to deal with an old habit is to bring that habit not to the light of the mind, but to the light of meditation, to bring that habit to the light of the higher God energy within you, which gives resolution to the problems and not resistance to the problem. I'll say it again. The best way to deal with those lingering problems in the mind is to bring what's there into the light of the God Spirit within you, and from that higher energy to receive the guidance to give resolution to the problem and not simply resistance. Eventually, if you're not there yet, we all have to learn the fact that you have within yourself the problem solver. The problem solver is the God Spirit within you. Its only battle is with a lingering habit. There really isn't who you are, but it's what you become accustomed to. So as we continue to go to that God Spirit within us, it is the way shower. It is that Spirit within us that will give us the guidance we need to move beyond our problems and to guide us to the best way to advance. So with that in mind, what I'm going to give you practically now is a principle, a possibility, and a procedure. So I hope this will make some sense to you. The principle I'd like to share with you for resolution is this. I hope you know it by now. The higher the energy you rise to, the greater the clarity and the quicker the response. The higher your energy, the more you bring what is bothering you from an old habit or what you're resisting to the God Spirit within you, the higher the energy you're bringing it to, well, the greater the clarity and the quicker the response. I'll say it again. The higher the energy, the greater the clarity and the quicker the response. The second thing I would suggest to you is a possibility. The possibility of doing this work, which we all must do if we haven't done it yet, is your willingness to do the work. In a moment, I'm going to introduce a procedure to get rid of old habits, and that'll help. But we must be willing to do the work. Only you know where you're periodically stuck. I mean, only you know that. And you're the only one that can be willing, hopefully, to unstick yourself. I don't know if unstick is a word, but it just makes sense to me. Yeah, only you can unstick yourself. Now, it beats me as to why we would not want to unstick ourselves. Now, at your level of maturity, why would you not want to get rid of those crazy things that no longer serve you? Why would I not want to get rid of those crazy things that no longer serve me? The only reason would be an old habit. It's just an old habit that you thought was more important than the awareness that is within you. Why do you want to hang on to that which does not work when you can hold on to the God Spirit, which would give you freedom and guidance in life? That's the work we need to do. It takes willingness. So with that in mind, what I'd like to do then is to give you a procedure. Double handouts today. So the procedure is just kind of a funsy type thing. Last month I gave you a procedure for new possibilities. This month, in a sense, we want to talk a little bit in a sense about releasing. So what I'd like to do, and I'm not going to ask you to fill this out here, although we'll take maybe a little something for our meditation a little bit, but I'd like you to think about using, let's go to the front sheet over here with all of the yays, the emojis and so on. So I would just suggest this, a spiritual worksheet of releasing. The acronym of FEAR, false evidence appearing real. To the false evidence appearing real of whatever might be blocking you, my spiritual resolution is. So I'm going to suggest we'll do one of those for our meditation today. But I ask you to take this home, and it's amazing. It's amazing what comes up. Now, if you think that nothing is blocking you, that was really nice. But then just go through the day, and if you start whining and complaining about something, that's a block. I just want to tell you, that's what a block is. Then, in Roman numeral, you have 3 options there. In Roman numeral number 2, just think how much better you will feel being fearless, being spiritually aware. And Nissy has her 5 emojis there, singing, yay. Well, I was going to do a handstand on one hand, but I didn't want to embarrass you, nor myself, so I thought we better not do that. Better not do that. Now, why would you not want to be spiritually aware? Why would you hold on to something? I mean, at this stage of the game, we've all been around the block enough times, so why do you want to hold on to just doesn't work? If you would turn the sheet over to the other side, this is something I suggested last month, and I just want you to know that I have learned to do this every day, and I found this to be very, very helpful. It's just entitled, You and the Source, the Vital Connection. So what I'm suggesting to you is that all energy comes from a universal source. Believe that to be true. Number 2, this universal energy surrounds and penetrates all of its forms, both physical and non-physical. We're a combination of both. It really, in a sense, surrounds and penetrates us. Number 3, as a conscious expression of the source energy, you are able to receive and extend this energy, and in the process, hopefully, take our rightful place as co-creators in the universe. And then lastly, this is what I have done, and I found this to be very helpful. Thus, each day, receive this universal energy for 15 minutes to increase the quality and intentions of your consciousness. So every day for 15 minutes, I do that. I just take that energy and bring it into me to help me release any old patterns, and especially to manifest new possibilities. And then extend this energy for 15 minutes to raise the consciousness of the planet in ways that you see fit, wherever you would like to extend this energy. And I've just found so many places where you want to extend the energy. And I think what was interesting to me is, as I extend energy to other places, it makes me concerned. It brings an energetic connection to a person or a situation. It kind of brings me into it, which is very, very helpful to me. I'm just suggesting this to you. I can only suggest anything to you. I just suggest you do it more than anything else. So hopefully this might be something that would be helpful to you. It's just a little bit of a worksheet, and processed with last month's worksheet, I think they would work very nicely together. So let me conclude. Wayne Dyer was very fond of saying that for every problem, there is a spiritual solution. I would just suggest for every problem, there's only a spiritual solution. Until you get it done in your heart space, it just doesn't get done. And if you don't, you just kind of fall back into an old habit again. I would encourage you to have the willingness of ridding yourself of what is no longer serving to you. In not only spiritually resolving the problem, not just spiritually resolving the problem, but raising you into your next state of spiritual evolution. Let's get going. Let's raise it up. As we continue to practice this way, the results continue to authenticate themselves. That's the key. So with that in mind, we'll bring that into meditation. Let's now set our intention for meditation, and I just suggest that you have in mind just something that you'd like to get rid of, whatever it might be. Might be the smallest little thing in the world, or it might be something monumental. But just understand the fact that the best way to get rid of it is to bring it to a higher energy. And that's what we'll do in this meditation, to bring that thing we no longer care for into a higher place, and from that higher place that we might receive resolution. Let's begin by simply being attentive to the breath, just your natural breathing rhythm, breathing in, breathing out, nothing forced. If a thought comes into your mind, just let it pass and simply continue again with the breathing. Please begin. And just to assist you with your breathing, when you inhale, just say to yourself the word in. When you exhale, the word out. It'll keep you focused in and out according to your natural breathing rhythm. Please continue. Now I'm going to give you another set of guide words. When you inhale, just say to yourself the word calm. When you exhale, say to yourself the word flow. But rather than just saying the words, feel the energy of the words. Feel the sense of calmness entering into you. Feel the sense of calmness flowing out of you. Stay focused, but nothing forced. If a thought comes in, let it pass. Calm, flow. Please continue. Now I'm going to ask you to notice something. Would you just notice how you are settling? Something is beginning to change within you. There's more of an inner focus to you. And just notice that. Calm and serene. One last thing we'll do. Just placing your hand over your heart-lung area. When you inhale, just feel your lungs expand. And when you exhale, feel them deflate. The movement will be subtle but clear. Just feel the rising and the fall of your lungs. Feel the breath. Please continue. You may place your hand back on your lap, and as you do so, I'll just ask you to notice something again. Would you just notice how peaceful you feel? Very alert, but not thinking. This is the inner you. This is your soul self. Just take a moment to know this inner you. Now, would you notice that this inner you is a part of a larger, more universal you? You as the soul are a participation in the God Spirit. Just get a feel for this. You, as a soul, are part of the larger God Spirit. It's kind of like There's something more than you that's still you. You're a part of it. Would you take a moment to feel the larger you, without boundaries, totally spacious? Now we're going to do the work. Would you go back to the little you, the soul you, and would you call to mind an old habit, something that you're just ready to get rid of? It just doesn't serve you anymore. Just focus on that habit for a second. I want to get rid of. Now, would you simply raise that intention into your higher universal energy, the larger you, realizing that the higher your energy, the greater the clarity, and the quicker the response. Bring that intention into your higher energy and let it speak to you. It will. Now will you bring the guidance of that higher energy down into your soul self and clearly set the direction of what you have been guided to do. Take a breath. Feel good about yourself. You have just demystified a process that has been bugging you for years. Hallelujah. And concluding now with even a happier part, let's bring that energy back here into this room and just let it swirl around all of us here. Wonderful, lovely souls, and Dave and his group next door, and anyone here in the convent, the sisters. Let it swirl around everyone, and especially around us here gathered. Feel your energy embracing each other, person next to you, around you. And then bring that energy into yourself, into your body, into your physicality. Let it just come right into you and fill up every part of you. Just let it fill you up. And just notice how good you feel. Ah, my. Happy. Content. And then just when you're ready, just slowly breathe your eyes opened, little smile on your face. Come on now. And then just allow the goodness within you to emanate out.